Hi everybody, Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, and this week's contract tip has to do with the release of earnest money upon termination of a contract. So just a couple tips to remind you. Number one, the holder of any trust funds may not release the earnest money, those trust funds, to any party unless we get both party signatures agreeing as to which party gets those funds back. So the release agreement after you terminate a contract, there is the release agreement. Now, any one party can terminate, but you need both parties' signatures to release the trust funds. They have to be in agreement as to who gets that money back. So until the holder of the earnest money of the trust funds gets that signed agreement, the holder may not release those funds back to any party. The other thing to remember is the contracts, both RE forms and GAR forms, state that the holder of the earnest money does not have to release any trust funds until they have cleared the bank. Additionally, every brokerage has a policy on how long they're going to hold trust funds when they are received in the form of a personal check. Maximum One's policy on that is we hold personal checks for 10 banking days. So the key for you as an agent, let's say you have a buyer writes a contract on a property, you go binding, and they have remitted the earnest money to the holder. If they've sent it in the form of a personal check, let's say they've done that. So let's say they terminate under due diligence within a few days. Then the buyer wants to turn around and write an offer on another property. Remember, those trust funds that were held in trust, the earnest money on property number one that the buyer just terminated, are not available for use yet for offer number two on the second contract. Either, if it was a personal check, then regardless of the form, the holder has to get the agreement from both buyer and the seller on the release form in order to release those funds. The second thing is, if it was in the form of a personal check, Maximum One will hold that funds. They are not available for use on contract number two for at least 10 banking days, again, after deposit. So even if a buyer terminates under an allowed for contingency, again, such as due diligence, for example, if the seller does not sign the agreement to release the trust funds, even if the buyer terminated, everything was allowed for, again, those trust funds, that earnest money is not available for contract number two. So keep that in mind. The buyer will have, until of course we get all the signatures and the time frame has passed. So keep that in mind. If the buyer does want to write an offer on property number two, they will either have to add additional earnest money, and then of course when everything it falls in place with contract number one, the holder would just, if we're holding it, will just reimburse that money back to the buyer. Or you would have to write the contract that the earnest money will be remitted X number of days, accounting for the time frame to have all of that information clear. So again, just a quick little tip this week. Hope that helps you out, and thank you so much for watching. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, satisfying your needs with service, innovation, and education.